Margaret, and this is Braden. And on this beautiful afternoon, we are at the Whole Foods Community Room. And Braden and I are lucky and honored enough to be able to watch the speeches for class, what is it? Speech
115.
115. And we will have 6 speakers who will each be recorded. And we're going to start off, did you show the crowd butter?
Not yet.
Okay. And we're going to start off with Christophany. And Braden says goodbye.
Until the next speaker. Thank you, Margaret, for that very nice introduction. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Christophany Creed, and today I'm actually going to be talking to you about pizza. I'm going to be covering the history of pizza, or what historians presume is the history of pizza, how it became popular in the United States and throughout the world, and finally I'm going to conclude with some interesting facts and statistics about pizza that you may not know. Now, what makes me an expert in speaking about the subject is that pizza is probably my favorite food next to peanut butter and banana sandwiches. I grew up just an hour and a half outside of one of the commonly thought of birthplaces of pizza outside of New York City. I grew up in Connecticut, so I've been eating pizza all my life, a variety of ranges of pizza. So I'm going to start off by asking a question. Do you have any idea how many slices of pizza are eaten in America each second? Any guesses?
20,000.
Okay, well, those are really big numbers. Well, during my presentation today, over 126,000 slices of pizza will be consumed. It's an average of 350 slices per second in the United States in pizza. So pizza is actually the #2 food. Any idea what the #1 food is?
Hamburgers.
Hamburger. So kind of makes sense when you think about it. So, have you ever looked in the phone book for pizza? Or any restaurant, for that matter, Chinese food, Mexican food? Now, most restaurants are found under restaurant in the phone book. Well, pizza actually has its own category under P, which is kind of interesting. So dating back to the Stone Age, actually, pizzas were first cooked then under open fires underneath the stones, and it was basically a flat bread. What they would do with the pizza is season it with herbs and use it as an edible plate. They would soak up gravies and sauces with the flatbreads. Now the Greeks then started putting herbs and cheeses and oils on top of these flatbreads. It was commonly eaten with peasants. It was a very cheap food to make, and was very easy to access, so the poor people were primarily known to eat pizza. So pizza dates back to the mid-300 BC, which I find kind of amazing. Now in 1522, tomatoes made their way to Europe from the United States. Now originally they thought the tomato was poisonous. So it wasn't until the 18th century where pizza as we know it today from Naples, Italy came about when they finally accepted the tomato and used it on their pizzas. So Naples is really where pizza as we know it was born. And again, it was popular among peasants. It was primarily sold from peddlers on the streets. They would carry buckets on their heads with false bottoms with coal in it to keep the pizza hot. So pizza in New York, in the traditional sense, is cooked in coal ovens, even still today. In 1830, pizza restaurants came about when they started adding tables and chairs. Then in 1889, Queen Margherita and King Umberto I went to Italy and they toured all over. Now the Queen noticed all these peasants eating these flatbread pizzas, so she asked her guards to bring her some and she fell in love with the pizzas. So a chef, his name is Raphael Esposito, he had a pizzeria in Italy, and he was asked by the Queen to make her 3 different pizzas. One of the pizzas he made had the colors of the Italian flag represented. He used basil for the green, mozzarella for the white, tomato for the red. This was by far her favorite pizza. So it came to be known as the Margherita pizza. Now, Neapolitans recognize 2 primary pizza types, the Margherita and the Marinara. Now, the Marinara has oregano, olive oil, and cheese on top, and it's named after La Marinara, which was the seaman's wife who would make these pizzas for her husband returning from fishing expeditions in the Bay of Naples. So that's how we get the Margherita and the Marinara pizza. Now, the 19th century came around and Italian immigrants made their way to the United States. they set up Italian groceries, and it was there that they sold their flatbread pizzas. Gennaro Lombardi had an Italian grocery store in Little Italy in Manhattan in 1897. He was commissioned, or he's known as having the very first pizzeria. In 1905, he got his license from the city of New York to sell pizzas. Now, his chef, Antonio Totino, who was making the pizzas, now we're in 1905, he later opened a restaurant in 1925. So there's a debate as to who was first, Lombardi or Totino. They're both still in operation today in New York City. Eventually, pizza made its way to Chicago, which is where we have the birth of the deep dish pizza, and that was in 1943. Now, in 1945, following the war, troops stationed in Italy got to know about the pizzas. So still, we're just basically focusing on Italian populations in the United States. When the troops came back from Italy, they brought their love of the pizzas, and so pizza became more widespread popularity at that point in time. So then you saw pizzerias popping up in San Francisco, Philadelphia, Chicago, all over the country. In 1957, the frozen pizza hit the grocery market, which is kind of interesting. And in 1958, the first Pizza Hut popped up in Wichita, Kansas. And that's pretty much when we start seeing restaurants popping up all over the place. Today, the best aspect of the pizza is the delivery. The home delivery pizza market is huge in this country. There are almost 70,000 pizza restaurants in the United States, and they account for about $36 billion in pizza sales every year. So it's pretty staggering numbers. In conclusion, you can see why pizza has become the #2 food. Almost, I would contend, the #1 in my world. In other parts of the world, they put different things on their pizza. For example, the Brazilians love to put green peas on their pizza. And if you head to Russia, you might find red herring on your pizza. Japan, you might find squid or eel. Not really my preference, but in the United States, the #1 topping, any guesses?
Pepperoni.
Exactly, pepperoni. About 251 billion pounds of pepperoni are consumed each year on pizza in the United States. And just another fun fact for you, the largest pizza ever baked was in Florida, and it measured over 100 inches in width. So I think that would definitely feed our audience today and maybe a couple of more. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.